Howdy guys, Radio Magic here. I hope you are all having a fantastic morning, day, afternoon or evening, wherever you are and whatever you are up to. Today we are back on the channel testing how viable is Control when climbing to Mythic in Historic, if that is what you're interested in doing, or maybe you're just interested in making your opponent's lives complete misery. And we're going to be trying to do that today with some Jeskai Control. So I'm going to skip the deck text since it looks like a pretty classic list. I'm sure you can tell what most of the cards do from what's in front of you right now. There will be a deck list down in the description below, so go check that out along with timestamps for all of the games. So if you're interested in just skipping ahead of what I'm saying right now, then go ahead and do that and jump straight into the games. There's no spoilers down there, so feel free to do that. But essentially, I just want to go over a few cards that we are testing in the list, because there's a reason that we are playing Jeskai today, and there's 4 in particular cards as to what we're doing. One of them showed up in yesterday's Azorius video, which worked out really well, actually. We played Memory Lapse as a 3-of, and I've gone up as a 4-of here to really test how good this card is, and hopefully it's going to perform really well. 2-mana counterspell that puts the spell back on top of its owner's library. I did a really more in-depth description in the Azorius video yesterday. I'll leave a little stamp to that in the top right now if you want to go check that out. And spoiler alert, Azorius did really well there, so yeah, go check that out if you're a fan of blue-white. But there are 3 other cards that I wanted to test out, and a reason as to why I want to run Jeskai and give it a real shot. One of them being Lightning Helix. I heard a few people say that Lightning Helix alone is not enough to make Jeskai Control playable, and they're probably right, but that's not a reason to not try Lightning Helix and see if it can make Jeskai viable. 2-mana instant, Lightning Helix deals 3 damage to any target and you gain 3 life. That free life is going to be so essential in some of the aggro matchups and just providing that little bit of a buffer. Gruul, I find, is one of the hardest decks to play against right now, and regardless of how strong your list is, whether you're running a creature list, a mid-range list, Embercleave is going to smash right through you. And if you're in a control list, just being on the draw alone is sometimes enough to kill you. So hopefully the buffer from Lightning Helix will be enough to help us survive just long enough to stabilize. The final Mystical Archive card that I wanted to try was Electrolyze. This is a reprint. This is a really exciting card to be in Historic, because while on the offset it doesn't look too powerful, 3 mana Izzet instant that deals 2 damage divided as you choose between 1 or 2 targets, but you also get to draw a card. So essentially what this means is it can potentially kill 1 or 2 of your opponent's creatures, ping a Planeswalker, ping your opponent if you want, but you also get to replace the card at the same time. So essentially it's free. It's free card advantage. You just have to spend the mana on it. Similar to Shark Typhoon, it has that sort of cycling potential, which makes Electrolyze, I think, a really strong card. We're only going to run 3 of, but we're going to see how this does. The final card that we want to test out is Prismari Command. This is something that I didn't even consider putting in this Jeskai list until I looked at some other people's lists at the same time. So 3 mana instant, but you get to choose 2 modes, and it's worth noting that none of these modes are particularly powerful, but the flexibility of being able to choose 2 of these modes I think is what makes it semi-playable. So essentially choose 2, either it deals 2 damage to any target, person, creature, planeswalker, anything you want. Target player draws 2 cards and then discards 2 cards, so like a Faithless Looting sort of effect. It allows us to discard some lands or irrelevant spells in the late game. And target player creates a treasure token or destroy target artifact. So I find myself a lot of the time when I was playtesting this is dealing 2 damage and sometimes either drawing or creating a treasure token. Very rarely does the artifact come up, because there's not many artifacts that we really care about that hinders our game plan. You will notice that there are no Grafdigger's Cages in the main, and I think if I was going to make this list a bit more competitive, and we are going to play this again on the channel at some point, since personally I think this looks like a really fun list, and when I was playtesting it was really strong in my opinion, and it's fun that you've got that burn potential at the same time. I would probably go up on cages and put them cages in the main, just because Prismari Command is something that gives you the ability to discard them cages when you don't want them if you draw duplicates. It's a reason we're running 2 Searchless Canters in this list when we would normally only run 1. But we can actually afford to run 2 or 3 cages in the main and discard them to commands if we don't want them. I just think at the moment Cage is so strong against so many different decks in the meta, it's probably worth going a little bit overboard since we can discard them to command. But that being said, when I've play tested Prismari Command, it's been very hit or miss. Sometimes the card is just above good, better than average, and sometimes it's really, really poor. I haven't really found a situation yet when it's been outstanding, when I've been like, wow, if I did not have Prismari Command in this situation, I'd be really upset. But I have found that with Memory Lapse, Lightning Helix, and Electrolyze. So all of them exciting cards, and hopefully we will see them in the games coming up. So like we always do, we're going to play 4 or 5 games back to back. We're not going to skip any games. We're not going to edit anything out. You will see all of my misplays live essentially and raw. So give me some hate in the comments down below with the misplays I make. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to shut up because I'm trying to make these intros a little bit more shorter so we can have slightly longer games, because I don't want to make the videos too long, though I have had some feedback that some people enjoy the longer videos. So I'm not going to shorten them by too much, but I'd like to get them under 2 hours if at all possible. But like I said, I'm going to shut up and get on with it, and I will catch you again at the end with the wrap up. Okay, so we are back in Historic playing some more Jeskai Control, best of 3, and it looks like we're against Lewis of the Dream Den, so let's see how we get on. I think we are going to keep this hand, maybe keep one of these irrigated farmlands to cycle. But this hand's pretty good against Lewis. It depends what variant they're on, I guess. If they're on the Rakdos Pyromancer list, then we might struggle a little bit. So opponent Four.Vs is this Lightning Helix, and then goes turn to Arcanist, then yeah, here we go. Step 1 executed. They take this Lightning Helix, then guess we'll just play this. Well, I guess we're cycling actually. Yeah, and if they go turn 2 Arcanist, then they're going to get to attack and Four.Vs or Inquisition. So just a Pyromancer. And yeah, Electrolyze matches up quite well against Pyromancer. We're just going to do it now, I think. Don't allow our opponent to make a token. Because I can see our opponent casting like a Four.Vs and then using the token to sacrifice to a Village Rites or something. Pretty good exchange there. One of the reasons Electrolyze I think is quite good. So Valky just gets to look at our hand. Counterspell Haven here. So maybe board wipe off the top? Nope. Can't have it all though. So we're in a position where we do need to draw something proactive here, because our opponent can just keep smacking us for 4. And even if we draw board wipe, if we don't draw it this turn, I guess, maybe next turn, one more turn, then it is just going to be too late. Yep, gonna be too late, I think. Gonna be too low a life total to beat these Croxers and things that are gonna come up. Yep, I love counter spells, but I need to draw something. This is the risk you run with Control, isn't it? Is you always run that risk of drawing the wrong half of your deck at one point. So, I mean, Narset into board wipe could do it, but at the same time, our opponent could just play something and then Fame to give it haste and kill us. So, won't show our opponent the Narset, though I'm sure they can assume that we do have a Narset. So, yeah, we know what our game plan is here. The Graph Digger's Cage has come in. Anger of God. I guess Cast Out's pretty useless. Not that great. Love Electrolyze in this matchup. Stuff we want to cut. Maybe cut some number of Wrath of Gods. We brought in Anger, and Wrath's not amazing in this matchup. It's okay. Maybe just run like that. I mean, if our opponent has a Croxer, how are we answering Croxer? I guess we got Graph Digger's Cage and Rest in Peace and just hope that it's already in the graveyard. Okay, so we have Cage and Rest in Peace in our hand, but with only 1 land, I think we are going to have to mulligan this away. We do have Command, so if we had like 2 lands, I could possibly keep, knowing that we could make a treasure token later on, but with only 1 land, we're going to mulligan it. And yeah, we'll keep this. I think put Wrath on the bottom. Maybe put Electrolyze on the bottom. I think it's more likely our opponent's going to have Hand Hate. I'd rather have, especially on the mulligan, maybe answer something that our opponent's got and get a little bit of value off of it at the same time. Opponent's also mulliganing. Opponent's mulligan to 5 though, so Hopefully they don't have an answer to this cage. Looks like they don't. Sweet, so we get to make the same play we made last time, and I think we are just going to electrolyze this now. I don't see any reason to wait. And just get a little bit of value, since essentially a free kill, electrolyze drawing an extra card is pretty sweet. Okay, maybe that's the reason to wait. So opponent's missing land drops. Yeah, let's just Lightning Helix now. Could hold up Absorb, but then our opponent could maybe start to establish a board presence. Don't know if we want that to happen. Okay, Inquisition's fine. So our opponent knows about the Absorb. They might just try and play into it in the hopes that we don't have another one. They've got to get through it eventually. So yeah, we'll let our opponent look. And we actually have quite a bit of burn in this list for a control list, so we are going to try and pressure our opponent with this 2-2. Maybe they'll sort of forget about it. And our opponent is in the colours that they like to deal a bit of damage to themselves sometimes. So these Shark Typhoons aren't nothing. Yeah, sit back, and if our opponent tries to answer cage, we'll stop it. Or if they do something too impactful, if not, we'll just make another 2-2. And then hopefully we draw an untapped land so we can Azcanta plus Absorb. Yeah, I think I'll make a 2-2 now. Our opponent's probably taking this Azcanta. Maybe they take Shark Typhoon if it's still in their hand. Opponent had the Abrade. We were going to have to tap down at some point. But I think it's getting to a point where it's not going to matter too much that we lost our cage, because these sharks are starting to stack up the damage. Just going to try and punish our opponent for being a little bit slow. Yeah, and if their play is to put Lurrus into hand, I think we're okay. Since we get to make another 2-2 here. And then our opponent's on a 2-turn clock, and we have Absorb up. And that's all of our Shark Typhoons? No, 3 of them. Yeah, Azcanta. Gonna flip next turn. So our opponent's got quite a few things they have to worry about here. I think it's going to be quite difficult for them to recover from this. Yep. Makes sense. So our opponent mulliganed to 5, I think, that game. Got a little bit punished, but it happens. Just going to run it back, I think, and see if we can do it again in game 3. If one of these lands were a Triome or a Glacial Fortress or Steam Vents, this would be one of the hands you dream about. I still think we're going to keep this because double cage is great. Our opponent can only Thoughtseize. Well, I guess they can actually Thoughtseize both of them if they have double hand hate spell, but I still think this is good enough to keep. It's a shame we've got a tap land to start with. I assume our opponent can... Oh! I mean, maybe we should have actually led with Glacial Fortress, I think, knowing that if we top deck an island, we can still play the Rest in Peace. Okay. So our opponent's going to allow us to play Cage, but if they have an Abrade, no red mana at the moment, but they do have an Abrade, then at least we have the Rest in Peace after. And being in Rakdos, our opponent doesn't actually... I guess there's the 2-mana sorcery that can stop Rest in Peace. We're getting rid of Absorb at the moment. I guess our plan next turn is to play Rest in Peace. So probably get rid of the Memory Lapse and hope to draw land. I want Anger of the Gods as a way to clear up Pyromancer. Opponent takes Rest in Peace here, I think. Yep. So maybe that was the reason to keep Memory Lapse in hand, because now we're left doing nothing this turn. So if our opponent's plan is to play Lurrus, I think we got to counter it. So let's just shock and shock. And if our opponent decides to sack to a village rights, we'll still have a legal target. So it would still resolve. Now our opponent has to do something. And this absorb pretty much has Lurrus's name on it. Yeah, I mean, probably just let this resolve and anger. I think we need to save the absorb for Lurrus. And I really want to hit a land drop here, so we're just going to electrolyze, shoot our opponent for 2. Like I said, we do have a bit of burn, so this 2 isn't nothing. We'll anger the gods and then hold up this absorb for Lurrus. Do have to be somewhat worried of an abrade, because our opponent does have Croxer. Okay, yeah, I'm happy with our opponent taking that. I think we have to let this resolve. So can make a 1-1 and hold up. Our opponent's not going to be able to one-shot us. So let's get down Search Canter. And then next turn we get to flip it. And we're going to take the 4. Yeah, our opponent's not going to activate Lockthwain in response. I think when we're running Lightning Helixes and Electrolyzers, you've got to be careful of falling too low. But I'm not going to tap down there. We need to flip Search Canter, and we're 1 land short of being able to Wrath plus Absorb, so we'll flip this. Memory Lapse is quite a good one. Not so worried about an Abrade with Memory Lapse, since we can just stop. Their opponent's going to take a bit of damage. I mean, they're in range of being shot from a shark now. Just take 8. It's risky, but we're going to take 8. There's no Team of Battle Rage around here. Pyromancer can go, yeah. I mean, opponent could have a removal spell, but we will see. And a Braid's not going to cut it. A Bedevil will be fine. But if they allow us to untap here, then it's game over. Sweet! So one of the risks of Death Shadow is falling too low when your opponent's running a ton of burn spells. But yeah, taking down Rakdos. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so we are on the draw, and I think this is really reasonable. We're missing double blue for Absorb, but we have Search Canter on turn 2, and then hopefully into Electrolyze being relevant in this matchup. We'll see. Okay, Concealed Courtyard. I don't know what to think knowing that this is not a Lurrus list. Okay, so Electrolyze might be okay here. I guess we should shock ourselves to make sure we have all of our colours. So we'll see how good Electrolyze is, but at least we'll make our opponent discard a card with the Seasoned Hallowblade. So I assume they're going to take Electrolyze here. And this is actually going to be quite difficult to answer. We're going to need to find a cast out. This has to tap. Yeah. So Graveyard Memory Lapse. We have one in hand already. Have a counter spell. So yeah, I think I'm going to have to shock here. So falling to 7 here, but our opponent essentially can't cast a spell this turn. And then I guess on the next turn we have Cast Out to answer the Seasoned Hallowblade, and then Electrolyze to answer the Spellbinder, and hopefully something else our opponent plays. Yeah, that seems okay. Guess we'll keep that. So opponent could have like a protection spell. At least we're not dead. If our opponent gives one of them protection from white, we'll just fall to 1. I mean, falling to 4, I don't feel comfortable. There's definitely a number of things that kills us here. I think took quite a bit of damage off our mana this game. There's probably a way we could have done it. Maybe Castle Arden Veiling turn 2 to not shock for the Searchlight Canter, but I guess we still would have had to shock each other turn. Yeah, Spellbinder did really well this game. Okay, so other humans get +1/+1. Yeah, I think that's gonna be it. Yeah, I guess we're looking for a board wipe. Yep, sometimes it just comes through. And we've got to hope that our opponent doesn't have another Anthem effect here for the Seasoned Hallowblade. I don't think this makes more creatures. No. And then I guess if we don't die on our next turn, if our opponent can't pump the Hallowblade, then we've got Shark Typhoon and Absorb. So yeah, opponent's got 1 card in hand, 2 after drawing. There's a good chance that we actually might survive here. Fall to 1. I mean, even Castle Ardenvale saves us if our opponent doesn't put anything else into play. Yeah, that makes our life a little bit harder. Memory lapse is not enough. So I guess our out is Cycle Shark Typhoon, hoping to hit Lightning Helix. So we can cycle Shark Typhoon for 2. Yeah, that's I think that's the play. We'll do it now. Because we'll need to shock one of the... attempt to hide Lightning Helix, one of the Season's Hallowblade. But no, they did not work. Could have maybe cycled this after to see if our opponent would have not attacked for whatever reason, but they did attack. I feel like this is definitely a winnable matchup. We got relatively unlucky with our opponent targeting the Electrolyze. But yeah, I feel like we've got it here. So how do we want to sideboard for this? There's not much. We've got a pretty good main deck, I think, against what our opponent's up to. Maybe want Narsets to be able to dig a little bit deeper. Cast outs, I think, are going to be quite good just for being able to disrupt the Hallowblades, having Indestructible. Maybe you want to just cut a command. It's one of our like weaker removal spells. I think Electrolyze is going to be quite good. There's quite a few 1 toughness creatures there. So, on the play this time, and yeah, this hand looks okay. A little bit short of lands, but if we can find 1 land, then Prismari Command is going to make us a treasure, and I guess we can cycle Shark Typhoon as well for 0. And Lightning Helix is going to buy us a little bit of time as well. I think providing we can get our land drops, I feel relatively confident about this. Yep, probably just going to play out the Triome, and then go for command. Yeah, I think I like just passing the turn, and then if our opponent goes to put the counter on the Giant Killer, then I guess we'll Lightning Helix. If they go to put a counter on the Aspirant, then we will command. I also want to make sure we do answer something, because our opponent may not contribute more to the board if we're not going to kill something. So we want them to overextend a little bit more, and like we're going to wrap the board here. I assume our opponent didn't take the board wipe there because obviously got 2 of them. I don't think this affects the cycling cost. Okay, so we can only cast Shark Typhoon now, so it essentially stops us from casting that. I don't think we can cycle this from exile. It says then we may cast it from exile. I think we're just playing this tapped, maybe. And then just Lightning Helix. Yeah, I think we'll take the damage. I don't know if it's worth taking the damage, but we can at least represent a counterspell. So I think we're just going to pass a turn here and go for the command, maybe discarding this extra land and any other lands we draw. Our opponent's going to try to threaten us with Arden Vale, I think, here, but the fact we're on 20 is going to mean they have to spend quite a bit of time doing that. Okay, so this is going to stop us from casting command, so if we want to cast command, we better do it now, and I think we're going to. Going to create a treasure, and, well, I guess we won't actually be able to cast Shark Typhoon. I guess we could always board wipe, so let's draw 2 and create a treasure. Because we do want to be able to cast the Shark Typhoon. I'd imagine it's going to be difficult for our opponent to answer. Probably... I guess we could just Lightning Helix, so maybe just discard Electrolyze and land. And then we've got Lightning Helix to answer this, and then if our opponent starts to go wide, then we've got Wrath of God. I don't think it's worth using the treasure to do this now. We can always, in the end step, attempt to kill the Magistrate and then board wipe in our turn. Because our opponent knows about the board wipe. And we still gain the life. Yeah, I mean, should we just start with Teferi first, maybe? Our opponent's not really pressuring Teferi. And it sort of puts it on our opponent to extend a little bit more into the board to try and answer Teferi, but obviously they've got to create that delicate balance. Otherwise, they're going to lose too much to Wrath of God. So opponent gets to knock Teferi down to 2 loyalty here, and then we get to wipe the board and then tick up Teferi. And then we're no longer being threatened by Arden Vale. And then hopefully by the time our opponent gets around to finally finishing off our Teferi, we'd have gained enough card advantage to find either a Narset, another Teferi, Sertress Canter. Maybe the Shark Typhoon will start to take over. I really like this combo though. Oh, okay, so opponent's going to be able to take it out. I like the Elite Spellbinder in combination with the Magistrate being able to stop you from casting that spell altogether. So it doesn't really matter. We may as well preserve our life total, I guess. Yeah, we'll represent a counterspell. But there's no reason to Shark Typhoon first, because the Wrath of God's obviously going to wipe away the token. Maybe it's worth to save ourselves 2 life, but I think it's better to represent that you might have something. Though I guess you could say like your opponent's at a point now where they just have to play into your counterspell if you've got one. So maybe it's better just to save the 2 life. Okay, so opponent's out of gas. So 3, 6, 7, 8. So we do have to shock in here. So now we just need to find anything that's not a land, essentially. Because our opponent's going to smack us down to 10 here. And then they just get to keep making 1/1s. And these are 1/1 humans as well. So they can sacrifice some of these humans to destroy our sharks if they're too big. So we need to find something. Like a board wipe would be fantastic. Narset would be great. Searchers Cancer I think would be a little bit slow, but essentially we just don't want to draw lands now. Opponent's giving their graveyard a bit of a look. Okay, so opponent's returning something and drawing. Okay, so yeah, don't love our position. We have 1 turn to draw something. And yep, 3, 6. Yeah, that's gonna be game. Did the 2 life matter? 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. The 2 life actually mattered from the last turn when we had to shock in the Shark Typhoon, so we would have had 1 more draw had we not have not represented and absorb. I mean, opponent's going to give it to us anyway. So they're actually buying us another turn here. Because we get to gain the 3 life and get to create a shark to block. They can obviously tap down Giant Killer, but they're still giving us an extra draw here. Okay, maybe not. 6, 9, yeah, okay, exactly. So the 2 life still mattered. So my mistake, yeah, probably shouldn't have shocked in when we had the opportunity to. Should have just laid it down and saw what was going on. But yeah, let's move on to the next game. Okay, so we are on the play, and this hand looks really good. Again, providing our opponent doesn't have a turn 1 Four.Vs or Inquisition. I feel like I say that a lot, like a broken record, but we don't have any turn 1 plays, so a lot of the time we have got to dodge that. But yeah, Searcher's Cancer turn 2, gonna be good. No Luris, so I would imagine our opponent isn't on black, but black shows up straight away. Looks like Dimir. Probably going to start graveyarding lands. We'll keep some in a minute. Against Dimir, I'm imagining we just want to hit as many counterspells as we can. And we'll still graveyard lands since we're still drawing them naturally. The sooner we flip this Searcher's Cancer, the better. And just get to make a 2/2 shark here. Our opponent can't really tap down on this turn since they know we're coming into fairy mana. Our opponent's definitely going to have an answer for this. Yep, there we go. So I assume that they have a Saw It coming, so we don't really want to tap down with Teferi here. Yeah, we'll graveyard a few more lands since we're still drawing them. And I think I will just shoot our opponent with Electrolyze in the end step if they don't do anything. I don't imagine it's going to have too many good targets. Don't really know what our opponent's up to. Just on Dimir, and we've seen a Fatal Push so far. Yeah, we'll keep Memory Lapse. So sort of incentivized to Lightning Helix our opponent as well. Could go for the Scry. I think Electrolyze actually, and then try our best to graveyard whatever's on top of our library. To flip Searcher's Cancer. Yeah, we can graveyard a Lightning Helix. I mean, there's an argument to keep it since our opponent's probably going to be going quite low. They're on 16 already. Just a few Shark Typhoons, maybe Lightning Helixes, and we should start to take over. Maybe burn our opponent out, but our opponent's got to make a move here since we've got Searchless Cancer. And we'll make him try and make another move since we've got Shark Typhoon. Gonna cycle it for 2 here since our opponent's definitely going to have an Eliminate or a Fatal Push, so may as well tap down. The only list I'm thinking our opponent could be on is the combo list. But I guess if they're running 2 of the same card. I'll put the combo card up on screen now since I can't remember, but I do know what I'm talking about. Yeah, normally they run the companion where you have a different named card. You don't have the same name card in your list. I know what I'm saying. Right, what are we doing? Hallowed Fountain, Triome. We'll just play this tapped. I think we're fine. We're just activating Searchless Cancer at the moment. And might just Lightning Helix our opponent in the end step since we're going to be going to discard soon. Rather just chip our opponent for free, I think. I mean, it might be able to hit a Narset or something. Absorb's okay. Might cycle a Triome, actually. We're probably not at the point where we need to Lightning Helix just yet. I mean, that being said, we are about to go to discard, so... And we probably are discarding this Lightning Helix. I mean, we're going to be making a smaller shark. We probably don't need to activate Searchless Cancer, so we'll just Lightning Helix now. And then we'll make a 5/5 shark. Our opponent will obviously kill it with something, but just try and slowly get cards out of our opponent's hand. They have not made a land drop. So, all gas in hand. Okay, opponent's giving us opportunity to resolve something here. So, gonna probably pick our Teferi. So, opponent's gonna go for, I assume, Memory Lapse. And then we'll Memory Lapse their Memory Lapse, or they'll just go for Negate. Kind of interesting, because I think we need to stop this, obviously. The Torrential Gearhulk. I think we're going to have to absorb it and then just tuck Torrential Gearhulk. It gives our opponent an opportunity to just answer our Teferi, but... Yeah, let's use Absorb. I guess let's use Memory Lapse. This gives us the opportunity to cycle. Do we want to cycle or play the... We'll play the Irrigate Farmland out and we can Lightning Helix our opponent if we want to. We've gone past 2 Electrolyzes, so 1 left. This will be our 3rd Lightning Helix and we've gone past 3 Shark Typhoons. I guess that's a better Lightning Helix target. I think we will, though I'm... Oh, I guess they don't want to get rid of Torrential Gearhulk, which is their rationale. But if our opponent wants to counter Lightning Helix, I think we're fine with that. So, though we don't get the tick up from Teferi, the draw, we still get double as counter activations. And... I'm not gonna cast a Narset into their negate, especially since we don't have to here. We get to just activate as counter. So let's activate first in case we pick like a cast out that we want to cast. Memory Lapse or Absorb. Let's just go for another Absorb. Yeah, so we're going to lose Teferi here. We do have another one. Could go for a Scry. Opponent could just flash in a Torrential Gear Hulk just to flash it in, but I guess that works okay for us if we have like a board wipe. Keep a cast out. Guess we should really pass the turn first and answer the shark. Guess could try and find a board wipe first. I don't know, there's loads of different ways we can do this, because we've sort of got a complete wealth of resources, so we kind of want to use our resources to make our opponent use theirs. I don't know why it taps so much blue there. Why would it tap so much blue? We have quadruple absorb and it taps that much blue. Yeah, we're not going to be able to... We'd get one more counter. I guess we'd only get one more counter anyway. So opponent might let this resolve and then cast a torrential. No. Gonna fight over this, like I said, just to make our opponent use their resources. Kind of happy for our opponent just to tap down this much. Because I think we just get to Teferi here, tuck the shark. And then got our counter spells up. Just need to find an answer to this Narset. I guess we do want to answer Vraska's Contempt permanently. Let's go for the negate. Yeah, I think we're fine to just put that back on top, knowing that our opponent has Torrential Gear Hulk. Nothing else they can do now. They can trade in their Narset for that negate if they want to, but the opponent's not going to do that. So let's play our Narset out first. See if we can find an answer to their Narset so we can actually utilise our Teferi's +1. And we did. So let's do this. I guess deal 2 damage and we'll create a treasure. And then we actually get to utilise our Teferi's +1. So that was incredibly unorganised, that whole series of events. There was definitely better ways we could have gone about doing that. But we got there in the end, and that's what matters, I guess. So how are we boarding against this? Command was okay there, but I still think it's not great. I feel Electrolyze... Apart from Narset, there's not much. And like same goes for Lightning Helix as well. But I actually think keeping like that and maybe like run one Electrolyze. I guess it's better to run a Lightning Helix. Just because if our opponent wants to tick down Narset once, then Lightning Helix can at least finish her off. But Electrolyze can't. So probably just like this. Just want to keep some rafts for these shark tokens and Torrential Gear Hulks. I think it makes sense. Just run it like that. So we are missing lands. We only have 2, but we can cycle this cast out. And if our opponent doesn't have any hand hate, then Searcher's Canter is going to be quite good. Our opponent went the whole last game without any hand hate, so we can cross our fingers. It's definitely something that gives them the edge. Having Thoughtseizes and Inquisitions, I feel like, has some sort of advantage against Jeskai and Azorius. I think I'm going to shock, but we're not going to play Searcher's Canter into a counterspell. We'll cycle to make sure we hit our lands. But yeah, I guess we really just don't want to see a Fort Distortion. Yeah, don't think we can afford to stop this. Opponent could untap, go Narset, and then we're in a little bit of trouble. Yeah, Fort Distortion is going to be one of the harder things to answer if our opponent is running it. Ooh, Sublime Epiphany, that's nice to be aware of. We definitely want to stop this. Could Memory Lapse, but our opponent could definitely have a counterspell as well. They have got an opportunity to go Narset now. It passed through pretty quick. I think I'm going to go for it. Didn't look like they have a Narset. They probably have a counterspell. So here's hoping they don't have a Mystical Dispute. No, Mystical Dispute, yep. Opponent wants to keep their negate as well. So drew negate for turn. We did not, but if our opponent doesn't have a Fort Distortion, then we're kind of stacked. It's going to be difficult for them to resolve something. But if our opponent has Fort Distortion, it's probably just instant concession from us. Opponent wants a lot of blue. Yep. You can see they probably just take Teferi here. But our opponent is not resolving anything for the, the foreseeable future. This is very much the control players' situation they want to be in, just pass, land, pass. We would like to hit our land drop, since every time we don't hit a land drop now, we are going to discard. I guess our opponent hasn't got any way to shuffle at the moment, so we're fine letting this Brainstorm resolve. Since it looks like our opponent's going to... If they draw and then shuffle, they're only going to get one card out of their hand. If that makes sense. Okay, so Shark Typhoon is a way around what we've got going on. It's a pretty good way around it as well. I think we need to cycle this. I guess we'll... yeah, we'll cycle now. I mean, we have to go to discard, but we'll just discard one of these counter spells. But we need to do something. Can't sit back with a Shark Typhoon out. Or Flying Shark. Yeah. We're not going to win this fight, but we need to make our opponent fight over it. Just because we've got so many resources. See, opponent with like a Sublime Epiphany here. Nope. Opponent again wants their negate. They could have countered our Memory Lapse, but they chose not to. So, one draw. Opponent's got all the Brainstorms. Did they find a Shark Typhoon? Yep. Sweet. So unfortunate for us. One of the situations where you're caught with all lands in hand, all counter spells, and no way to interact with the board. But we did keep our cast outs in and our board wipes, so we have got things to interact with the board. Maybe we want to cut like a lightning. I still think we want that lightning helix. Could bring in a Wrath of God, but I like it. We'll keep it like this. I don't really want a mulligan against a deck with Four.Vs. But there's every opportunity that our opponent has a Mystical Dispute or Four.Vs or Inquisition. Hopefully they go tap land. That would be the dream. Opponent chose to shock that in. They could be bluffing. I mean, now we're not resolving it for a while because they'll have negate up. But if it was a bluff, I guess we can do it now. They would need... No, there's nothing they can have. They'll get to resolve their Narset, but we get to resolve our Searchers Canter. So I think I'm happy with this exchange. Providing our opponent can actually utilise their turn. Because if they play a Narset and tick down, I guess we get to Lightning Helix it. We'll graveyard the first of these lands. Okay, now we've got some actual pressure. Yeah, I don't think I want to show our opponent what we've got in hand. We can at least bluff multiple counterspells this way. Yep. It kind of works out well for us because our opponent doesn't get to take our Teferi and look at our hand. Because I think they would take... I don't know if they'd take the Absorb. But it's still filling our graveyard for Searchers Canter at the same time. Opponent's missing lands. I think we just want a graveyard Teferi at the moment. More interested in like a Shark Typhoon. Okay, so opponent's missing land drops, so are we, but obviously Searchers Canter is getting closer to flipping. Surprised. Okay, opponent wanted to do that, I guess. So surprised our opponent didn't wait till their draw first before fetching. Increase the probability of hitting a land. Yeah. Opponent's going to take a card here, and then we will transform Searchers Canter. I think we're going to graveyard that just to transform. That is our final Teferi, though. Fortunately, our opponent can't counter Chandra. This is why she's in the board. Even if they Vraska's Contempt her now, we've at least clocked them. 15 turn clock. And we can minus on these sharks. Kind of tells me our opponent doesn't have a way to answer them, so I'm just going to keep ticking up. It's going to take him a few turns to answer this. I think we saw our opponent have Disallow. We didn't see him saw it coming. We saw Disallow, so they might be using it to counter Chandra tick up. Ooh, Sublime Epiphany. I think I like trying to hit a Memory Lapse or Veto here. Or none, but I guess Absorb. We can Lightning Helix the Shark to take a load of pressure off of Chandra. So they still get to counter the ability in that, but they don't get an extra Shark, so Chandra's under nowhere near as much pressure. Ooh, nice. So they get to bounce Chandra. I'm surprised they didn't bounce her before. So, yeah, we're in a bit of a sticky situation now. We can activate as Canter looking for a board wipe. Because I think Chandra's just not going to cut it when our opponent's 11ing us a turn. And if there is ever the turn to find the board wipe, it's this turn. Tis unfortunate. Hope our opponent doesn't have a Mystical Dispute. Whew, we're getting unfortunate with finding cards. We've gone past quite a few. Yeah, I think we could have played Chandra and ticked up, and our opponent would be on 11 now, but our opponent's going to 11 us a turn. That's just not going to work out in our favour. It's quite a quick way to close the game. Problem is, I think it's just maybe over now. Because our opponent's likely to have a counter spell here. I think we can increase the probability of success if we end step activate Search as Canter. Try and find a board wipe. And play Search as Canter now. Opponent's got a counter spell with Elden Priority. Or a Shark Typhoon. Try and find a board wipe in the end step. We've got 2, I think, in the list. I think we kept 2. But opponent's going to potentially have 2 counter spells to protect it. Yeah, opponent's 11ing us. We can't search until our end step. Or their end step. Yeah. So get like 1 more dig, and we get a look with Azcanta Scry in our turn. This decline. Okay, so we drew the ward wipe. But it's just incredibly likely that our opponent's going to be able to kill us here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So Search as Canter, yeah. I mean, yep, if our opponent's got double counter spell. Sweet, GG. Unfortunately, Chandra didn't come through for us. Torrential Gear Hulk into Sublime Epiphany, copy the Torrential Gear Hulk is a pretty quick way to close the game. Okay, so we are on the play, and I think triple Electrolyze with 1 land has to be a mulligan. God, we are having some mana issues. 2 lands, but both of them enter tapped. So this isn't even a matter of not hitting our colours, this is just mana troubles. We're against Lewis of the Dream Den. I think we're going to keep this and put one of these Teferis on the bottom. Hope to hit lands. I don't think we can mulligan to 5, really. Okay, so opponent just wants to get rid of their Death Shadow, I guess. Put that in the graveyard. Okay, so opponent just scoops it up. Maybe they made a misplay, not sure, but we're much better boarding, so happy to pick up game 1 either way. I don't really know what just happened. But yeah, we will board how we would normally board, kinda. I guess we want Aggro the Gods to take out one of these Wraths as well. Okay, so game 2 against Lewis of the Dream Den, and our opponent's hopefully not going to shame scoop after casting their Death Shadow on 18 life. But we're having more mana issues. 1 lander, we'll have to mulligan this away. Gonna keep this. Looks like we're going to get to resolve this cage. Oh, Gitu Lava Run, that's a little bit different. Maybe our opponent's not on a Pyromancer list that I anticipated. So maybe these cages aren't actually going to be great. Still going to be good against this Scrap Heap Scoundrel. Yeah, I think it's worth holding up Memory Lapse here. Might have to shock next turn. But I can imagine our opponent's going to try and have an impactful turn 3. Yeah, I think it's worth trying to stop this. Opponent's going to draw it again next turn. We kind of want to keep our Electrolyze if possible. It looks like our opponent might be on a, yeah, like a Rakdos aggro list rather than a Pyromancer list. Don't know how we want to do this. We probably want to take out the Scrap Heap Scrounger here rather than the Skyclave, and then next turn we don't have to shock our Steam Vents in and we can just cycle make a 1/1 Shark. I guess our opponent's going to take the... Shark Typhoon off of us. I still think it's better to take out the Scrap Heap Scrounger. Okay, that works out the same way, because our opponent can only Four.Vs one of these Shark Typhoons. Obviously, there's like a number of things our opponent could have. They could have Ember Cleave next turn. They could have a Stomp, which would stop our plan. But there's not much we can do about either of them. Okay, so opponents played all of their cards out. Maybe we don't want all of this sideboard hate. Grafdigger's Cage seems good, but maybe we don't need Rest in Peace as well. So our opponent can make the Death Shadow a bit bigger at instant speed. I think we're going to need to find a board wipe to survive this. Okay, opponent chose not to make the Death Shadow any bigger. Yeah, I think opponent made a mistake with that, maybe. So we could hit Anger of the Gods. In which case we should tap our mana better. So, taking a bit of amount here, take 3, 4, 5. And then I guess we're dead to a land. Yep. So, yeah, slightly different list than what we expected we were against originally. That makes me think we maybe want these commands, since the artifact, at least we can destroy the Scrap Heap Scrounger with it. So I think we want that, and I think we want these Wrath of Gods maybe. I don't think we want Rest in Peace. And maybe Narset and Cast Out's a bit too much, and we just bring in our cheaper removal. Cool, we are definitely having some mana issues today. I think the last like 5 hands in a row we've had trouble. But yeah, we're gonna have to mulligan this. And again, mana issues, but I guess we will keep this one. Sometimes you just cannot catch a break. I feel like we need to give this Jeskai list another go at some point to see what it can do. I feel like it's had its fair share of bad draws today. Just going to hope that this memory lapse is enough to slow our opponent down. And then we can mop up with a Wrath. If our opponent has like a Scrap Heap Scrounger, it's going to be difficult to... Yeah, there you go. It's going to be difficult to keep them off of this unless we find a cage relatively soon. So if our opponent plays something that dies to Wrath, we'll just let it resolve. Again with the Four.Vs. Let's pop this back on top, I guess. We want to hold on to our board wipe if possible. Sweet, so a little bit extra. Looks like we are going to get to cast our Grafdigger's Cage. I guess our opponent's going to get to take it. Maybe we shouldn't have... Well, I think we have to board wipe at that point. We're going to take far too much damage. But yeah, we're going to lose our cage here. Tis unfortunate. And then I guess we're left with a 3/3 Shark when all's said and done. Oh, our opponent doesn't want to take the cage. Rather take Shark Typhoon. So I guess they get the Scrap Heap Scrounger back now. And then they just hope to close the game on the board, rather than utilising their graveyard. Only the one instant sorcery at the moment. Yep, just completely at the mercy of our top deck. And we need to top deck something pretty fast. Absorb's okay. I think we're going to have to maybe look for a board wipe instead of absorbing something. We'll see what our opponent's up to first, but... Potentially looking at falling to 4 life here, though. So I think we're going to have to use Castle Vantress. I think we have to find a board wipe here. Aggro the Gods does it, or Wrath of God. Does Lightning Helix do it? Puts us to 6, and we take 3, 4, 5, 6. So nope. Board wipe. Oh, board wipe. Okay, so providing we can fade 1 draw. If this is a land, then we might be okay. Looks like it's a land. Sweet. Okay. So I guess we hold on to the cage because we have commands. Okay, so we needed our opponent to draw 1 land 1 turn, and they ended up doing that. Now we've got a bit of a buffer. Sit on 6. I mean, if we draw land a few turns in a row now, we're going to be in trouble. Yeah, it was a good reason to hold on to command, onto the cage. We'll see if our opponent plays another creature. Because we're going to... I guess we'll just deal 2 damage. I guess they could have like an Ember Cleave. In which case 2 damage wouldn't do it. So destroy target artifact and we'll draw 2 cards. Yeah, if our opponent for some reason had an Ember Cleave here, I don't know if they're running that. I guess they can't run Ember Cleave because of Lurrus, so pretty silly. So we'll discard these 2 and then have Memory Lapse as a bit of backup. So yeah, don't want to scry. So we're very, very close to dead, but we are not dead just yet. Probably gonna Castle Vantress instead, just to be mana efficient, and we'll cycle on the same turn that we Memory Lapse. But doesn't matter, our opponent's gonna scoop it up there. So looked a little bit dire in some of them situations, but we managed to pull through. Had some pretty rough mana hands. Lands were a little bit dire, I think, in all of our hands name games, but yeah, we managed to get there. Okay, we are on the play for what is probably going to be the last game of our set of 5, because we're on game 5 at the moment. And this is one of them hands you dream about. Turn 2 Memory Lapse or Lightning Helix, 2 of the Mystical Archive cards, and we can back them up with some of our favourite cards in all of Magic. Let's hope that we've got a relatively good matchup here. Hoping, I guess, for something like Elves, or like a... Yeah, I can take Life Gain. Nice, refreshing last game, some life gain. I feel like we have a pretty good matchup against them. We'll see. Yeah, we're probably shooting Speaker. We'll see. I guess we just want to get to Wrath of God. Maybe we're not shooting Speaker. Yeah, there's no point. We've got the Wrath of God. We can just mop them up next turn. I guess this memory lapse is pretty much saved for Heliod. So probably the scariest card to come out of our opponent's list is Coco at the moment. But our opponent's just going to have a Valkyrie. Unfortunately, that cannot be Lightning Helixed. That can, on the other hand. Opponent's going to gain 3 life, though. But I think we may as well use the answers we've got. It says whenever another angel enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it. We would counter Speaker. We haven't got a guaranteed other board wipe. And then going to be left on 19 when all's said and done, and 2 counter spells. Just looking for Search Cantor or Teferi, just to close the game a little bit. Guess we can let this go. I guess if you have 7 or more than your starting low total creatures, you get control get +2/+2. This is a cleric, so they're going to gain 4 life, so probably don't want to allow this. So opponent's going to gain 1. Then we have to save our counterspell for the bishop next turn. A little bit sad we have to use our counterspells on bishop. I guess we will cycle in our opponent's turn. Because if we hit a board wipe, then probably want to save our absorb. But we wouldn't want a board wipe now. Actually, maybe we would, because whenever an angel you control dies, you get a spirit. We'll see. Okay, cast out. I guess if we just take away the Righteous Valkyrie, then our opponent's just left with 2 1/1s, or a 1/1 and a 1/4. Which I think I'm fine with. I guess Speaker of the Heavens would be a little bit bad. Shark Typhoon's amazing. Yeah, probably gonna have to stop that. We're sitting on a pretty comfortable life total, but it's going to make it really difficult for our Shark to block. So, opponent's last card could be a Collected Company. Okay, so I shocked in just to make sure that if our opponent has a Righteous Valkyrie, at least the Shark can still kill the Bishop for a +2/+2. Opponent did have Collected Company. Opponent whiffed completely on Collected Company. Oh, that's got to feel bad. I mean, we're going to start smacking our opponent's life total a little bit. Because we have the Absorb to stop our opponent's next relevant play. So this would take the cast out. Yeah, I see no reason to let that go through. And then we just stock up our lands at that point to discard to the command. So, Selesnya Angels. I guess like Anger of the Gods only are really relevant card that we need to bring in. Something that makes me think in these mid-range creature matchups, we don't really have much that we want to bring in. Maybe just cut like, I guess not a lot of our opponent stuff. I mean, quite a bit of it dies to Electrolyze actually. Maybe just cut command. I kind of like the rest of it. So going into game 2 against Selesnya Angels / Clerics kinda. Yeah, I think we can keep this. It's a little bit slow, but we're probably going to cycle this cast out early, and then Electrolyze will hopefully pick up some of our opponent's 1 power or 1 toughness creatures. I don't think it's worth shocking to cycle the cast out. Yeah, I think I like playing this. We'll still cycle cast out, I think. Oh, looks like our opponent's stuck on mana a little bit. This might be an easy last game. We'll see. Feels bad for the opponent. They kept a 2-lander in the hopes, on the draw, in the hopes of finding more lands. Doesn't always work out. Maybe we should have shocked there so we could cycle Shark Typhoon. Yeah, it's gonna... Too little, too late, I think. Could play Teferi here, but I think we're just going to cycle Shark Typhoon. Yeah. I mean, we don't really get through. I guess we still cycle and make a 3/3. And if our opponent blocks, we get to Electrolyze. Oh, yeah, opponent's got to think about that really carefully. Yeah, I still think... Let's play Teferi. I see no reason to allow our opponent to keep the Valkyrie. They can't really pressure our Teferi. There's nothing in their colours that's going to have haste. Let's see if our opponent goes for the block this time. They got to be thinking about Electrolyze. At least with our opponent not blocking, though, it's unlikely that this Valkyrie is ever going to be switched on. Okay, so opponent is hitting the land drops now. We don't actually have a way to stop a Coco as well, so our opponent's not out of it. Though they are quite far behind. Yeah, I mean, both of these are superb. Let's attack. We're getting quite close to being able to burn our opponent out as well. Yeah, I think we'll just cycle and make a big shark, actually. Probably should have laid tapped Hallowed Fountain. Did we even tick up our Teferi? I think we actually didn't tick up our Teferi there. Wow. So our opponent's going to Coco here. But we get to cast a Shark Typhoon for 6. I think I got quite excited about just casting our Shark Typhoon and closing the game that we forgot to tick up. But yeah, we get to 9 our opponent, and then we've got a lot of burn in hand, so we should just be able to finish it off. Oh, Teferi's Protection. Sweet. And then I guess we'll show our opponent so they know they're not crazy and that not blocking was a good idea. Wow, okay, yeah, taking down Selesnya Angels, providing our opponent did have a bad draw, missed on lands in that final game. Howdy guys, cheers for making it to the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching some Jeskai Control. It's a pretty nice break to take a break from Azorius every now and again, though when you look at this list, a lot of it is taken inspiration from the Azorius list. Numbers are quite similar in a lot of different places, though we went up on memory lapses and up on search canters, which I think actually did rather well overall. I feel like we need to make room for some more Narsets maybe, because she still feels incredibly powerful. So how do we think Jeskai Control did in comparison to Azorius? Because a lot of the time I say Azorius is just a better version of Grixis and Jeskai. I actually feel like Jeskai had something to offer that Azorius doesn't have to offer this time round, which is not something that I'd normally say. The buffer from Lightning Helix, gaining that free life, though we didn't play against Gruul, we did play against some aggro matchups, and you can really see how that life gain would help us in that matchup. We will play Jeskai again on the channel soon, so we can hopefully play against Gruul and see how the cards do overall, because I think Electrolyze is going to be quite good against Gruul. I also think Lightning Helix is at the same time. Prismari Command, being able to shoot Embercleave, is actually something relevant as well as killing a creature at the same time. Could be really good implication. Obviously, we didn't get to see how that would work out. But like I said, I think the list did pretty well overall. We got unfortunate with some of our mana situations, and that's just the way Magic works sometimes. We can moan about it, we can bitch about it, but at the end of the day, it's going to happen from time to time. You got to smile and laugh. There's sometimes when you keep them 2 lands hands and you draw 5 lands in a row and you're just over the moon. And you see some games like we had today when we can't find a land in the first 8 draws or something, which is pretty ridiculous. 26 lands in Jeskai and Azorius, so I don't know, take that with what you may. We are running more Searchers Canters in this list, more like Electrolyzes, ways of filtering, but we're running Brainstorms in the Azorius list. Obviously, we can't run as much utility in the mana basis as Jeskai because we have to meet all of our colour bits. That's why we're not running Brainstorm, because we're not running Fable Passages at the same time. But overall, I thought the list did really well. I also thought it was really fun at the same time. Unfortunately, we weren't able to run 4-mana Chandra because I don't think she works particularly well with Memory Lapse and Absorb, so I decided to keep her out. Though, if I was going to make this list again, I'd love to say I'd put her in. I probably wouldn't put her in. I'd maybe find room for a One.Of in the board. When I used to play standard Control down at the store, at local FNMs and that, I used to find One.Of slots for my favourite cards in the sideboard. Take up 3 or 4 slots with just cards that you really enjoy playing and try and put them in wherever you can. So maybe I'll throw a Chandra in the board for that. That being said, we didn't play Cages in the main, and I feel like Cage is a really good card still. You should be playing it in the main. And when you're adding something like Prismari Command and Searchers Canter, you actually have ways of discarding them extra Cages if you draw them or if they're on the top of your library. So you're probably going to be running 2 Cages, I think, in the main and then 1 in the board. So probably got to make room for them. Maybe it's worth, I don't know, looking at this. I don't know what you'd cut. I really struggled to make cuts as it is with the list, so do let me know in the comments down below what you could change, but try and make room for 2 Cages without cutting the command. That being said, I don't think the command is overall powerful. I just think it has some good utility with being able to destroy Embercleaves, killing a creature at the same time, and then cycling cards that you don't necessarily want that aren't relevant in the matchup, and maybe try and hit land drops. You can also ramp as well, so you can go turn 3 command into turn 4 Teferi, if that tickles your fancy. But like I said, I really enjoyed Jeskai. It was a fun, fresh take on the Control variant. It was a nice break from Azorius. Let me know what you guys thought, and yeah, hopefully we'll play some more Jeskai again in the future. I'd like to give it a more fair go at Historic, I think, because like I said, I think it struggled a little bit with its mana, and I think providing it hit its land drops, it could have performed a bit better, and we'll add our Cages in and see how we get on. But like I said, I'm just rambling. Do all the normal stuff, and I will catch you again in the next video.